All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that seems super small in web design, but it can totally make or break how technology feels for millions of people. It's a principle called label and name, and trust me, once you get it, you'll never look at a button the same way again.
You've been there, right? You tell your phone or your computer to do something, and it just doesn't. You say exactly what you see on the screen, but your device just stares back at you, totally blank. It's a super common frustration, and it almost always points to this hidden disconnect between what we see and what the machine actually understands.
Okay, so let's walk through a classic example of this failure. It's a scenario that just perfectly captures that frustrating gap between what we want to happen and what the technology actually does. Picture this. You're on a travel site. You've found the perfect flight. And right there on the screen is a big, obvious button. The text on it says, "Book now." Simple enough, right? So you lean in, maybe you're using a voice assistant, and you say the most logical thing in the world, based on exactly what you see. Click Book Now. And then, absolutely nothing. The page just sits there. That button doesn't do a thing. You might try again, maybe a little louder this time, but the result is the same. The command fails. So what in the world just happened?
Well, the whole problem comes down to this hidden layer of information. You see, every little thing you can click on a web page, like a button, it's kind of got a split personality. It actually has two different identities. And when they don't line up, things start to break.
All right, so here's the big secret. That button has two identities. First, there's the visible label. That's the Book Now text that we can all see and read. But behind the scenes, there's also an accessible name. Think of that as the button's real name, the one that's written in the code. It's what the software is actually looking for.
And that accessible name, that's the one that really matters to the software. If your voice command doesn't match it, the computer has no idea what you're talking about. In our travel site example, we saw Book Now, right? But what if the developer coded its accessible name as, say, reserve your ticket? This happens all the time. Maybe a designer wanted short, snappy text, but a developer added a more descriptive name for screen readers, not realizing they were creating this disconnect. The software was listening for reserve your ticket, which is exactly why our command to click Book Now went nowhere.
So the good news is there's a really simple rule to fix all of this. It's part of something called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG for short. You can think of it as the official rulebook for making sure the web works for literally everyone. And the rule we're talking about is simply called label in name. And the rule itself, it's so simple, it's brilliant. It just says that the hidden name, the accessible name, has to contain the text that you can see on the screen. That's it. What you see is what the machine gets, basically. So how do you actually do this right? Well, the best way is super straightforward. You start the accessible name with the exact text from the visible label. Then, if you need to add more info, say for a button that just says search, you can add that extra context after the visible text. The accessible name becomes something like search our articles. That way, when someone says click search, it just works. Every single time.
Okay, theory is one thing, but let's look at some real-world examples to see what passes, what fails, and where it gets a little tricky. So check this out. If a button says search and the accessible name is search our articles, that's a pass. Search is right there at the beginning. But our old friend, the Book Now button with a hidden name of reserve your ticket, total fail. The words just don't match up. And look at this last one. It shows that little things like punctuation are usually fine. A button that says next can have an accessible name of just next, and that's perfectly okay.
Now, it's also really important to know what this rule doesn't cover. Basically, we're not talking about things like the main heading on a page or instructions that come before a form. This rule is laser-focused on the text that's like right on or next to the button or link itself.
And what happens with icons? This is a great question. Let's say you've got that classic B icon in a text editor. The accessible name shouldn't just be B. That's just a letter. The name needs to describe what it does, its function. So the right name is bold. The rule is about human language, not just symbols. So after all this, you might be thinking, okay, it's a technical rule, but why does it matter so much? Well, it's because this little rule is like a bridge. It connects what we see on the screen to the code humming away in the background. And when that bridge is strong, the whole experience becomes more reliable and way less confusing for everyone. And when we get this right, the impact is huge. For anyone using voice commands, it's a game changer. They can finally just say what they see and trust that it'll work.
For folks using screen readers, it means the audio they hear perfectly lines up with the text on the screen. No more weird disconnects. And it even helps people with cognitive challenges because it lowers the mental energy you need to use a site. There are no secret code words you have to guess.
You see, at the end of the day, this is so much more than just a coding rule. It's really a principle of good, clear communication. It's about making sure the digital world is predictable, intuitive, and something everyone can trust, no matter how they access it.
So, label and name is a powerful reminder that great design isn't just about the cool stuff you can see. It's also about those invisible structures underneath that make everything click. And that leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. What other hidden languages are we building into our technology, and how can we make sure they're speaking clearly to every single one of us?